Oh no. Not everyone has curly hair, so it's like really? Sometimes when I feel like it's happening, yeah, probably. The pretty thing about the curly hair is not we're down. It's pretty even body, so no matter what. Well, as you can tell, you just always see it that way, but yeah. My hair got curly after I had my kids. I love it's always been wavy, but I just let my hair dry without brushing it. It dries and spindles, especially when they're deep it.
Cool. All right. Fun Thursday, right? All right. So, who was the person that I could possibly thank who put the prayer in that caused rain? Awesome. Fantastic. Good job. I'm glad that you took care of that for us. Rain finally happened in Southern California. Despite all of the predictions that we would never see rain ever again, and that nothing in this place would ever actually grow nicely, or it's unique because I love the fact that the development of our weather patterning here has been very very interesting, and there's a lot that goes into understanding why even people are feeling the way they're feeling. And the connection to thyroid is absolutely zero. It's just one of those interesting places. A lot of people are moving in or moving out because of certain things that are happening surrounding this particular area for California. And I am shocked, I think, sometimes because people don't realize they are responding to the environment more than they're actually responding to their own personal whatever wishes, anything of that nature. So it's funny to me because if the environment supports you, you stick around. If the environment doesn't support you, then you leave. That's the very wonderful thing about not being a plant. Plants don't get this choice. The funny part about the thyroid is, and the way this does connect, is that are all of your senses working to tell you whether or not this is a good place for you or a place that you should be leaving from? We're going to get into some of the interesting issues that comes into why a thyroid stops working and how you can actually control and heal some of those areas in order to get them back to function, because that's really the game that we're playing here. Who here that we are working with tonight, that I can see their hands, besides those that are catching us online, that actually has thyroid issues or concerns? Okay, fantastic, good, this is awesome. A little bit of that too. Okay. So the easy first question I could say is, for somebody who puts that to the positive, how do you know?
How do I know what?
You have a thyroid issue.
Because
the doctor told you.
30 years ago.
30 years ago. Okay, so, okay. Anything else that might tell you?
Well, the signs that I had, I get tested every year.
Okay.
And they always say, they'll either adjust it, whether lower it or increase it, whatever they have to do.
That you're talking about, like thyroid medicines?
Thyroid medication.
Okay, medication. Okay. So you're in the classification of hypo?
Yes.
So low function?
Yes.
Okay. Good. You
Same way.
Same way. So okay. So low function. Okay. Good. The reason I ask is that it's very hard. I think everybody's actually experiencing it. I think everybody has a little bit of it. I think no matter what, really in this environment, like we were talking about, the fact that weather is what it is here, and either you like it or you don't. And if you don't, you typically will tend to leave. And if you are enjoying it for some factor, I think people here love the beach so much that they will deal with high taxes, terrible traffic. They will deal with horrible pollution. They will deal with so many things that anywhere else on the planet, people are like, are you kidding me? I'm never going to live there. That's ridiculous. We're like, yeah, but it's close to the beach. It's so nice, isn't it? There's trade-offs, and it's unique about the thyroid in this whole design is sometimes we don't really even understand how or why there's an issue, but I think we're going to talk a little bit more about the function of the thyroid and how you can maybe better tell if you are experiencing low functioning thyroid or if there's another issue that may be the bigger reason. Versus people who say, no, I don't really have a thyroid issue, never been told, never been tested, don't have any medication. So, but wait a minute, you say that that is a sign of hypo or hyper or thyroid dysfunction. Maybe I do have some issues and we need to learn how to clean those up as well too. So, I like it. I like it a lot. The big thing here is obviously, like all weeks, very important, very essential is for us to actually do our conscious breathing. So I love the fact that we get to welcome somebody, maybe new to the experience here of being at Thoughtful Thursdays. And this is really interesting because the 1-minute meditation that we do every Thursday is at least my kind of tiny gift towards the idea of how to control your life if you use it properly. I still think most people who come here only use it on Thursday at 6 o'clock and it doesn't go into the rest of their lives. But that's one of those where I'll just keep saying it and I'll keep saying it and I'll keep saying it.
I have to say that you saying it does remind me at times throughout the day or the week to breathe more and to be mindful, and it does radiate in my brain. And I feel a good break.
Good, because I was going to create an app that actually just went on your phone, and all it did was at random times of the day just show up and be like, "Hi, Joe says breathe." Okay, great. Just to get past this whole feeling that I have of, well, it only happens Thursday at 6 o'clock.
I hope I can breathe today.
So the way we do this is we take a very deep conscious inhalation, 7 seconds of breath in, trying to fill the lungs as much as possible. Then we take 8 seconds of breathing out. And by doing that counted breath, we actually are fully activating all the muscles, and we're doing something conscious about the way our body's working, using our nervous system to control an organ function, which is why we have that system there. And then we do that twice, so 30 seconds of just really counted breath, and then 30 seconds of just kind of normal breathing until we kind of flatline everything, all the stressors you were experiencing before can kind of drop away, and your brain literally changes. We're going to learn tonight how that affects the way even your thyroid operates. It affects the way your adrenal glands operate. It affects the way your liver functions. It affects the way your stomach functions. Everything goes back to the idea of if you can remember Thursday at 6 to breathe through a lot of situations, then you'll feel better in your life. That's where this is such a beautiful relationship, and I just try to do everything I can to make it as healthy and positive as possible. So, if you're following along with me, the idea is you're going to take that nice big inhalation in. I'll do the counting. We'll go out for 8 seconds twice, and then 30 seconds normal breathing. And I thank you very much for joining me with this today. So, 7 seconds of breath in. Big full lungs, fantastic. 8 seconds of breath out. All the way down, so technically there's nothing left. 7 seconds of breath in. And then 8 seconds of breath out. All the way down. Fantastic. And then just 30 seconds of normal breathing. And then we'll get on with the rest of this. Fantastic. All right. So, this is exciting. Oh, what have we done to ourselves in the last 100 years of life? 100 years ago, the only thing you had to worry about your thyroid was goitering, truthfully. Goitering would happen whenever you would be so distant from iodine sources that your iodine would swell to try to improve its function, to try to improve its filtration and the sensing that it could have. And if you got iodine back into your body, you would get rid of the goiter and life would be okay. It was literally that simple. Everybody understood it. You would put iodine on your spine or on the feet. If you had a doctor who was actually working with you, they could give you homeopathic iodine. Iodine was actually put into bread. It was part of a mix that we'd actually throw it into flours as you were mixing up a bread mixture before you would rise it and then bake it, and you would get a little bit of iodine in bread. World War II took that away from us. Iodine became precious. It became part of the medical system for cleansing operations, and that became much more prevalent and more of a need than the idea of wasting it on people eating it. And so we decided to brominate bread, and we added bromine to the mixture, which kills the thyroid. So fast forward 70 years, we're stuck in this particular issue, and we are fighting for our lives and our livelihood and the ability to actually keep control of our bodies. The thyroid is literally a multifunctional sensing organ that actually teaches and tells all the other organs how to operate. The reason it's so important for health is because every single other organ reports back to the thyroid, and the thyroid sends out the signals for it to actually talk to every other organ. A lot of people, and this may be something that you've been speaking about, the idea that the doctor tested and therefore said you have some sort of thyroid issue, and all he tested was thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH. TSH is one hormone in the 34, 37 or so hormones that actually are a part of the thyroid complex. One. And when you have that one actually not in correct range, it could be everything from your adrenal glands to your pituitary gland to your liver function to your digestive system to just you having very, very heavy or thick. We talked about lymph and things like that, mucus of the body, not allowing for certain fluids to be moving through the system very effectively. That could control the TSH, aside from the actual function of the thyroid. So the idea is when you walk into a room, and you know how to sense the environment, and let's say you're a little bit warm, the idea is you come to the wall and you say, aha, the wall says, because of that thermostat, that it's 74 degrees in here and I like it to be 63, so therefore this is not the right environment for me, I'm going to change it. And so you push the button and the machine on top of the roof says, okay, fine, I'm going to flood the room full of more cold air and we'll chill this down for you. Your thyroid does that for you too. It actually controls your body temperature. It controls how well you can have a fever. It controls whether or not you're a person who's going to sweat. It controls whether or not you're going to digest. It's really in control of every single function of how the rest of the organelles work and what they do. So the unique place here is that goitering used to be the main concern, the main issue. Everybody else's thyroids were typically very healthy unless there was some interesting genetic abnormality that we didn't understand or we didn't know why it happened. And now we sit here to the point to where approximately 42% of the population has some form of thyroid dysfunction. 10 years from now, I think, so 2000, so approximately 2020, between 2020 and 2030, we're going to get to close to 60-some% of the population having some form of thyroid dysfunction. So it's unique to me when they test one hormone, and then they say there's a problem, and your body can go through a ton of different issues to where the medicine that you give is actually two of the other hormones that your body, because you don't really give a person stimulating hormone, you don't give people TSH, you give people T3, T4, and then you let your body try to figure out between thyroxine or levothyroxine which one is going to help promote their thyroid to function better. And the unique place here about understanding how this works is the thyroid talks to the liver, And the liver converts T3, T4, and free T3 or free T4 back and forth depending on your bloodstream. Your liver has nothing to do with technically the thyroid. The thyroid is involved in the process because it's sensing different things. But that would be the same type of issue as if you go over and you open up the back door, and then in this room, you're like, well, it's still 74 degrees. I'm still not happy. This is a system where I pushed the buttons, I turned on the machine, I've opened the door. I'm trying to get a relationship here to where my environment changes to suit me, to fit me. And yet, it's not quite happening the way you want it to. So then you add a little more. Maybe you open a window. Maybe you open up 2 doors. Maybe you are getting to the point to where by adding certain hormones and chemicals, you're trying to create a situation to where the wall thermostat could actually just be broken. This part here could just not be sensing correctly. And that's the unique place when we let a doctor sort of come in and put a compound in our bodies that affects other organs other than the thyroid and actually tries to get help to come back to our system. A lot of times when you play around with the medicine, the idea is that you're waiting to see, does your thyroid spin out of control and do you go up into hyperthyroidism? Or is it not enough and your body still feels very lucid or very lethargic and not actually allowing it to have enough function? So you're struggling back and forth with using a pill to control a sensing organ. And there's just a ton of issues with this process because nothing will create the same effect as if you come over and you diagnose the box here and you find out that it itself actually has a problem. And if the box has a problem and the thermostat inside that box is not doing its proper job, you actually could be perfectly okay. And yet everything else you're doing to try to change the temperature of this room is what we're trying to discover. And now if you lock all the doors and lock all the windows and seal them shut, meaning make it to where you can't change any of the other external environments around here, a lot of times the pharmaceutical system is what I believe does that process. It makes us almost what I call robotic. The idea is you're given this much drug, and that's for 24 hours how much drug you're allowed to have inside your body in order to create the functions of your cells. It's very scary to me because honestly, if I was to scare everybody here in some dramatic, beautiful way that I would feel very happy with myself and chuckle for a week or two, your adrenal glands would shoot right through your body if all of a sudden, I jumped on a chair, threw a chair against a window, did something crazy that Maddie wouldn't like. The idea is that you would have a sense in your system to go, hey, maybe this isn't the most comfortable, happy place. If your thyroid's not working, you won't have that sensation. You won't know that this isn't a good place for me. Your body won't tell you, please move. Your actual system will say, temperature's just fine. What are you doing? Why are you even getting upset? Why are you having irritations? Why are you being bothered by this scenario? And this mixed message signal relationship is one that I try very hard to reinvoke and reinvigorate people when it comes to being healthy. And that's why this fight is one of those big fights that I go through so often with people in saying you need to know that this is how your body works. This is what you're trying to discover. So with thyroid issues, you could just imagine so many other body parts, body organs could start having problems. And then you start taking pills or you start taking solutions in order to fix those problems. All because there was an issue in the control box on the wall in the room as to how and why you were able to feel what you were feeling inside your body. Nothing to do with that organ being dysfunctional, nothing to do with there any tissue developments or any problematics inside, just simply because one of the sensing organs was no longer functioning, the rest of those organs start to fall apart. And this is everything from a person who starts on, say, heartburn medicine, allergenic medicines, Zyrtec, Allegra, things like that, Prilosec, Tagamet, Zantac, all these other unique ones, metformin for diabetic control, different types of statins for cholesterol control, all can sometimes point back to the fact that, yes, something was affecting this thyroid gland, and we don't really know exactly why a value like TSH is off, the thyroid stimulating hormone is off, we're just going to give you the simple solution without ever really even understanding what's going on inside the rest of the organs. So the complication here is that when you play with one system of the body, it's interconnected with every single other system in the body. You don't get a free pass for just messing with the thyroid. That's technically like getting inside a car engine and just pulling all the spark plug wires and taking the fuel filter out and saying, or the oil filter out, going, yeah, it'll still run. It's still an engine. Everything's still there. It should just be perfectly fine. When you take out critical key components and things are not working properly, then the side effect is the car won't start, maybe the car won't move forward, different issues can happen. So we want to know that that's what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with a specified, limited, isolated system, closed loop system that doesn't have any effect on everything else. This has a tremendous capability of affecting so many other issues, and that's where we can finally see our bodies getting back to a zone of being healthful. So your liver, digestive system, the adrenal glands, and especially your skin. It's so unique because the skin is the sensing membrane of your human body. As much as we love our eyes and our ears and our nose and all of these, they have very specific sensations. The skin actually senses everything all the time. You can feel, everyone feel the actual air come on, right? Did you need to be told that the air turned on? Are you cold?
You're talking about color.
So the reason that you're feeling something is actually more likely the skin. You can't, I think you can, I mean, eventually you can smell cold. You can't see cold. You can feel cold though. It gives you a sense as to how the environment is performing. Same thing with stress. You can't really smell stress. You can sometimes see stress. Feel stress, yes, in a way, but we don't touch it. And yet we have a very good sense of whether or not we're in a stressful environment or there's issues surrounding us and we need to change things. So this is where I want this class to kind of focus, and I think it's interesting because when we look at healthy thyroid, heal thy thyroid, the idea is that you are supposed to be sensing the world properly. That's the most important goal in thyroid correction. We want you to be a part of the world and the world to be a part of you and everything to be speaking back and forth very correctly. How do we do that? How would you think?
Move to Hawaii?
Move to Hawaii? Okay, that's nice. I like that. That's a good solution. Hawaii living, it does sound like it'll be a little less stressful, a little less harsh on the thyroid. Okay, I got you there. I like that one. That's a good
There's
solution.
minerals there too.
What happened?
There's minerals that play into
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Good water, good volcanic minerals. Not a bad choice. So Mary Ann's credit card number is, and that will cover everyone's plane tickets, and she'll take care of all of that relationship that you need in order to just the Hawaiian solution. I think it's a great program. I think this is awesome.
Unless there's a hurricane. I was there.
Nice,
There
yes.
was one.
So the unique thing is not all of us can just move to Hawaii. I wish. But we can change the way our body senses different things surrounding us here. We've done a lot of classes focused on things like inflammation, detoxification. And that's you technically changing the thermostat in ways of actually affecting other parts of your body to allow them to be healthier. And when they're healthier, they send better signals back to the thyroid. The thyroid responds and says, oh, okay, so you're not stressed right now, so I can calm down just a little bit and take some pressure off of my function and my control of this whole thing. Okay, great. It's so nice that you finally stopped eating, 3 cans of soda, 2 things of Gatorade, all of the horrible preserved foods, everything. And now I can finally de-stress the stomach. I can de-stress the intestine. We're using the restroom once a day. Fantastic. We're not putting, different types of chemicals through our skin and letting our body try to blood filter and lymph filter all of those things out. So that's where healthy living, healthy habits really promote a healthy thyroid, just by default. And then there's some things you can do that are very specific. The most important thing when it comes to thyroids is getting some form of iodine back into your body. Now it's unique because someone that I was talking to was actually telling me that, well, I'm allergic, and my doctor said that if I take iodine, that actually I'm not going to be able to process it, and therefore I shouldn't try. I shouldn't begin the whole process of getting iodine back in my body. And I laughed so hard that I actually made the person feel bad. And I felt a little bad about it because the idea is that, of course, you were told that do not take iodine. Yes, it will.
A food allergy or?
No, because the idea is that the iodine would actually start making it to where the thyroid would function better. And eventually, if the thyroid functions better, you don't need the actual medicine that they were telling you because you had a broken quote-unquote thermostat, that the idea is you needed to have either the thermostat removed. I love that one. The idea is, well, it's broken, take the wall out because who cares, that doesn't need to be there. Or there's a little dysfunction, a little miscalibration. Maybe we can affect the way the thyroid is receiving information, and it will help self-regulate, because that's what it does, is it's a self-regulating organ. And the reason that I think it's so funny when people are told that they would be allergic to iodine is that more often than not, we're getting exposed to an iodine that's not helpful. And that's a big piece in this. Iosol iodine, or iodide molecules, I-1, and then the iodine is actually I2, so it's got two particulates of iodine. The interesting space here to understand is that the cell inside the thyroid opens up whenever this is present. Without this being present, the cell shuts down and it stops receiving information, it stops functioning. So when we're also going through, and excuse me for using you guys as great guinea pigs and examples in this conversation, but they might have tested something called TPO, or thyroid peroxidase. And the unique thing is TPO is this very strange value that they use to say, oh, you've got a condition called Hashimoto's, meaning your immune system is attacking your thyroid, and therefore you are no longer going to have thyroid function. And that's the way that they literally state it, like, oh, yeah, we tested your blood values, you've got this TPO marker. If you have this TPO marker, that means your body's attacking your thyroid and your thyroid's done. And they try to justify the reason for removing it right out of the system. And yet, TPO is actually the way that your body is trying to send you a signal of your thyroid's in trouble. It has bad particulates like chlorine, fluorine, and bromine. The main issues, those three, chlorine, fluorine, bromine, are found in things like bleach, chloride, fluoride, which is something that we have in our water and inside of a lot of our different products and things of that nature, and bromide. Bromide's in the breads, bromide's in the water. Bromide is found in a lot of different foods. They use it to clean the machines even that make anything that's gelatinous. If you're eating any kind of food that's not a powder or a solid chopped kind of food, if it goes through a machine and it's actually extruded in any way, they're going to use bromine in order to actually clean the inside. It's cheaper. And so the funny thing is your foods that are just like yogurts or different types of soups, anything like that that's put into a can. It's going through a machine typically to get inside that can. And the way that they flush those lines when they're done making that soup is they'll put either chlorine or bromine through that line to make it clean. And the unique space there is, so we have a lot of different exposures, and that TPO value is the indication that your immune system has said something is attacking the thyroid that isn't iodine, which is helpful. It's actually creating a breakdown in the skin tissues of the thyroid cells. That TPO value being very high means you have a lot of different things attacking the thyroid cells, and your immune system is trying to help keep things clean. It knows the thyroid is such an important part of your body that if it doesn't have the TPO value being very low, and this is the thing, it regulates it back and forth. Lots of toxicity in the thyroid gland, a lot of TPO, because it's trying to clean. Think of this peroxidase molecule as one that goes in and tries to clean out a very damaged area, a very broken set of cells. and it tries to kill those bad cells before you get to a point of nodulating or eventually to the level of cancers. That your body's actually trying to produce the right compound in order to kill, destroy, and break down bad cells, because if not, your thyroid's going to break apart. It's going to have more issues. And iodine won't be able to be in there to be functioned. So TPO values really break the interesting system down because they use something that's a natural response to a bad situation, and then they finally say, okay, this is more indication that it's broken, and we just need to supplant the system, and we need to not be listening to its function. Now that bothers me because, again, the idea is that it's not sometimes up to you or part of your style of living to where you go and you research why and how and what is occurring with these types of blood values. You hear something, you are told something, and you say, okay, that must be how it is. And that makes a lot of sense for you. It's just because of myself working through this process that I've even come in and found out that no, that's not exactly how it works. And the more toxicity or the higher level of toxic compounds you have exposed to in your body, the greater that value to give you more and more signal that your body's under stress. And it's so unique because it's a level that's told to us as, oh, this is the reason why we know you have this particular disease class. And if you don't, and the funny thing about the whole place there, they don't really give a solution. There's no like, oh, by the way, we need to cut whatever's causing the irritation to your cells. I understand now that with GMO foods and the induction of different wheats, corn, soys, things of that nature that have the glyphosate molecule, that your filtering organ, your thyroid gland, is getting a high level amount of this pesticide, this insecticide on and through your foods to the point to where, of course, it's shutting down. And that is very unique to me because why does the body produce this TPO? What started the irritation? Where is the condition that's causing this process? They have to go back through their history books and understand that we've kind of been doing it to ourselves for about 50, 60 years. DuPont, Bayer, Monsanto, all these people are producing chemicals that when it comes in contact with our thyroid, creates these broken down values and causes us to be stressed. Very, very important for us to get out of and into an understanding to where we know now why we can go and diagnose this particular box and know that our thyroid is telling us very important information about our body. So iodine is very critical. Getting it any way possible is the most important piece. If you can't drink it because your body produces a heavy reaction and it can't go into your actual water, then you put it on the bottom of your foot or on your forearm in order to start the process of having to be absorbed. Slowly but surely, the cells of your body will actually pull in the iodine molecules and it'll start absorbing and going in and cleaning and clearing. Because if you get iodine back into your body, it will actually clear those bad cells better and reinforce good functionality inside those cells. Instead of it being one of those where you're constantly watching your thyroid struggle with being clean, iodine is a cleansing molecule. And in fact, it's the best and most healthy cleansing molecule. You can clean with bleach, don't get me wrong. You can clean with bromine. It does a great job at killing things. But when it comes to the human body, we need iodine to help clean organs and clean tissues, especially our gut system, especially our muscles, our joint tissues. All these areas have bacteria in them. And without iodine, you can't keep them clean and operational. So that's where it becomes such a key critical piece in finally healing the body and decreasing stress and inflammation and finally allowing healing to occur.
How much should we be taking? And do kids, can I give it to my kids?
You can definitely give it to your kids. Everybody needs iodine. The question truthfully goes back to, there isn't oh, this is the level or this is the amount. Everyone needs a certain amount, and certain bodies can process only a little bit, especially if your thyroid's in stress mode and it's actually dealing with a lot. You might not be able to take even a full drop of iodine. Kids on the average are, again, everybody starts off with one drop. There's 1,800 micrograms in that one drop, and that's 2,000% more than what the FDA tells us that we should be eating on a routine basis. So You can, for kids, if you really wanted to be cautious, you can just put it inside an oil or a lotion, put it to the bottom of the feet.
I think even my kids, I used to one drop in water.
In water, perfect. So the big thing is you're watching them, you're taking care of them, you're seeing if there's any reactions. If they get really, really tired or very sluggish in the week after you start giving them iodine, then there's can be a detox reaction. There could be a phase that goes on there.
So do you keep doing it if that happens? Do you keep doing it?
Yes, because eventually they're going to get through that detox, and eventually they're going to feel better. You can, if you feel like it's really affecting them, put it to the feet first, and let their feet or their skin be the regulatory organ that actually brings in as much iodine as their body wants to have.
One drop again on the foot?
Still one drop. The place to then go to after maybe 30 or 60 days, if you notice that there is any kind of reactionary to introducing iodine, is that you finally do start getting it to be ingested and let it be processed through the body in the full form. Like I say, there is no level or understanding for when a body can say, okay, too much, too little. If we're finally getting exposed, your levels might go up to the point where you're taking 30, 40, 50 drops of this. It will clean and cleanse the body out, which can be a very interesting process. Might not feel the best at first, but the iodine can then be brought to a much more common number. Say 5 to 10 drops is kind of the average. For maintaining good health, once you have it to where your body and your thyroid is participating and actually feels all right with that level. Everybody should be coming and seeing me and talking to me if they're really wanting to understand this for themselves, instead of just the idea of, okay, I'm picking it up off the counter, I know I have thyroid issues, I went to your class, you said take iodine, I took 50 drops, it totally put me in the hospital, what do I do with myself? That's not what I'm saying, that's not how it's supposed to go. The idea is, this is healthy, but sometimes being healthy for a lot of people because of where they're at right now hurts, and it's not normal for them, it doesn't feel right. And we have to watch how other areas of the body can be cleaned first sometimes. So sometimes dropping right into this with a person who's not here, who I've never talked to, or they're not a client of mine, this might be the wrong first step. Their first step might be something more on the idea of getting magnesium back in the body. Because when you have a lot of iodine, your body's actually going to be very energetic. It's going to have a high fever response. It's going to clean and clear bacteria. But if you don't have enough magnesium in the system, then muscles are going to constrict. Sleep's going to be affected. Digestion's going to be affected. All these other organs are going to be caught off guard because now the thyroid says, giddy up. And you're revving that system saying, hey, you need to move. We got a lot of work to do. A really healthy thyroid is actually a slave driver because it's just function. And when it's working and doing its job, it's wondering why your adrenal glands are so taxed out or why your digestive system is not processing food. And it's going to do the best it can to try to regulate the system. Why your pancreas is in trouble. Well, I drink 5 Cokes a day and I have fast food 3 times a day and I eat 3 desserts after each of those fast food meals. Oh, so that's why the pancreas is stressed. Oh, well, maybe that is the first step then, is we need to take a look at dietary structure. And then we can find out that things like the magnesium complex is very, very critical. The reason magnesium is also important for the thyroid is that it helps bond different particulates like vitamin D, bonding calcium back to the bones. It helps bond material inside the muscle fibers, so your digestive system actually has the ability to grow additional muscles. It starts the detoxification of things like lactic acid and allows for your body to start to heal. So sometimes, again, on that 5 essentials, you're starting with magnesium first. And this is one of the more critical pieces in the process. Versus like a compound like silica. The reason I always go back to silica for the thyroid, even though it's not directly for the thyroid, the idea is that if you have adequate silica, you are not going to be able to absorb high levels of aluminum. So when it comes to aluminum toxicity is one of the big contributors to thyroid dysfunction. And we have a huge issue in our population that things like Teflon have been invented to where we are exposed to constant levels of aluminum on a routine basis. We started doing aluminum cans for what we were drinking things like soda out of, which phosphoric acid, carbonic acid, all of these different acids in our cans, they cause the relationship of allowing aluminum to come into our body. Not to mention things like vaccines, other different food products. They've used different aluminum compounds in order to really affect the human body. So to help that thyroid get out of a stress state, we'll bring in something like silica and finally allow the body to reject compounds like aluminum. And then there's not as much stress going on inside the cells of the human body. So this is where we see a lot of people who complain of both issues. Lots of breaking down nails, hair, skin having issues, and thyroid dysfunction. And we can say to ourselves, well, maybe there's a contributing factor here if you're not going to get a heavy metals test to see this reaction inside the body. And silica can be a major contributor to finally ridding the body of aluminum and allowing for better functionality inside all of those sensations that the body is going through. So silica can be a very, very key critical piece in finally having good health. And when you see things like your hair, skin, and nails improve, then obviously I think a lot of people on a vanity complex, they go, okay, thanks so much, Joe, for finally making this happen. Something like the silica there does its great job. Same thing with MSM, and that's why we always talk about these being a part of those five keys, the 5 essentials there, because the MSM will finally reduce the inflammation level. It finally makes it to where your body isn't as stressed in the liver or the digestive tract. So that sulfur molecule is very critical in the healing process of the human body. And we want to try to support the rest of the body because then finally the thyroid will be able to calm down. So it's really a major concern for me when it comes to healing the thyroid, because if you're 24 hours a day stressed in one of these areas, heavy metal poisoning, a lot of inflammation, a lot of bad digestion, it's hard for the thyroid to finally get out of that state of being on constant overdrive, trying to keep you healthy and keep your system functional and operational. So, in that being said, the idea is we step one organ back away from the thyroid and we look at the pituitary gland and we say, why on earth are we getting an uptick in pituitary tumors and pituitary disorders inside the human system in the last 10 years? Two major concerns for me is, again, that we are taking in a lot of genetically modified foods because the retrovirusing and the different pesticides in the tissues of those plants are something that the pituitary gland can't sense the difference between different stress organs. Because the adrenal gland is trying to tell you, get out of the room, move away from where there's a problem. And the adrenal glands are always going to be telling the system, the human, to improve their environment. If you're sleeping, and understand where this comes from. If you're sleeping without shelter, so you're not in a cave, let's just put it that way, at least when you're in a cave, one wall, one area, whatever's behind you, you can technically trust. If you pick the wrong cave, I guess that may not be working. Yeah, it may not be true. So if you don't clear out the cave and there's a big bear in there, and then the bear eats you while you sleep because you thought it'd be okay, you did mess that up. See, this is what we call that whole beautiful natural selection thing. Let's just blame ourselves. The male who's not smart enough to make sure the cave is clean and clear of big scary animals, then you don't get to breed over. That's awesome. That to me actually would be a lot of benefit to where we're at right now. But so once you're in this cave, once your back's protected, your body calms. You let your eyes do all of the actual sensing, whether or not there's something that's going to cause a problem for you. In our world today, anybody who has a cell phone and an email account, I don't think we ever get out of the stress state. I think we're afraid all of the time something's going to happen, and we have to jump to the cell phone really quickly in order to make sure it's okay. Good example. I love that.
Turned off.
I don't even know if I turned mine off. But it's so unique to me because now we've created a condition to where you can't calm, you can't de-stress your body even if you wanted to. Who knows who might call you on their random whim because their dog got away and you're now in their stress. You're allowing for a lot of these signals to get interrupted. So I give you these two beautiful ways of controlling the adrenal glands. One being mucuna, the other one being holy basil. Both of these herbs will start allowing you to control the adrenal process and calming the human body. Mucuna gives you dopamine. Holy basil technically just makes it to where you can kind of wake up in the morning and go to sleep at night with the attitude of, well, that's all I can get done today, fantastic, move on. The relationship for holy basil being an adrenal adaptogen, it's what we're missing in our lifestyles of waking up with the sun and going to bed with the sunset. And that relationship keeps us in very, very happy balance. We, on the other hand, wake up 3 hours ahead of schedule so we can catch the morning news or whatever it is, beat traffic. We stay awake all work day. We come home for dinner. We turn on the lights. Then we stay up until 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, trying to actually keep ourselves ahead of the tide of all the stuff we have to do. And we wonder why we're stressed and why our bodies are falling apart. So with these two, they're a fun combination to work with. Holy basil, start off with anywhere between a quarter to a half of a teaspoon for most people. And we definitely just set it up, morning and night. Right when you wake up, right before you go to bed. Just holy basil, both times. You can mix it into water like a tea. That's great. I think it's more energetic to actually put it in the mouth and let the mouth absorb it and put it into the bloodstream directly. And so it's unique because holy basil can be a very wonderful system. And I know we have some here, don't we? Ocean, three treasures. What is three treasures? Stratos, Reishi, Goji, Koshi, I don't see holy basil on the counter anymore. Oh, we are out?
Yeah.
So, holy basil has that great relationship. So if you're a person who is just feeling like you're always stressed, you're always under the gun, you've got people who ask a lot of you and you don't know how to respond to them, holy basil becomes this nice relationship. Mucuna, on the other hand, Mucuna has this beautiful way of telling the body that you don't want to be participating anymore, that you want to be in a relaxed state. You want to finally get dopamine back inside the body, and dopamine is the key critical nutrient that finally allows for the rest of the human body to relax. And the reason this is so essential is when we have things like a hobby, right? And I said, okay, so you get a choice. It's Saturday. I'm going to send you one of two emails. One email is the fact you need to work the rest of the weekend on the job that you do Monday through Friday in order to get ahead. The other email is one where you need to start working on this hobby that you love and enjoy and you get to spend the next 2 days functioning and operating with. Dopamine is what happens when you get the email about the hobby where you're like, yes, I finally get to go do something I enjoy instead of suffering through all of these issues. So dopamine happens when we look at our kids, as long as they're not screaming. Then there's another thing that happens, it's called adrenaline. You just beat the crap out of them. No, it's one of those great places where kids can do this. This is the reasons why moms will deal with just about anything and everything possible for their children, is that there's this thing called dopamine that says, oh, I love you, and I remember when you were born. When it comes to the relationship that you have with things that you enjoy, that you love to do, dopamine is there to make your life happy, to make your life functional. And we just don't have enough of it. We don't have enough of the ability to really relax and really enjoy. And this finally turns the stress of the HPA axis off.
So if Mucuna is relaxing and calming, and it's mixed with cacao, how does that combination work?
Well, for most people, theobromine's also very calming. It's spiritually advancing the pineal and allowing for there to be a much better relationship with the non-visible or external spiritual world versus the idea of what we believe to be reality. So sacred chocolate is this concept behind David Wolf, and they love the idea of being able to control the brain by giving it both signals and you learning how to meditate and enhance on the idea of the relaxation function of that, versus theobromine is very similar to caffeine, and therefore cacao and chocolates a lot of times for people are stimulating. They kind of get you excited. There's that aphrodisiac potential where it's an excited relaxing. It's like hurry up and go, be happy, which is kind of an interesting relationship for some people. But yes, Mucuna has the way of once you release the dopamine, then instead of loving caffeine, which a lot of people will love caffeine because of the adrenaline, they'll love relaxation, which is what theobromine brings. And so the relationship of the two, anything that you add, and this can get you into trouble, I guess, if you're person who actually is a married couple, if you take this and then talk to your significant other, you might actually like them again. So I don't know if that's something that has relationship potentials, but the idea, or your children, or your job, the unique place
Is
here.
it the same adaptation type or the morning and night? Or it's just
As needed.
As
Case
needed,
by case
case by case basis. It is adaptogenic because the idea is that when you're not stressed, you'll deal with more issues. I know that sounds weird to say, but if you've got 100 things to do and you're so stressed you don't even get one done, well, then you're locked into this place of where you just always have 100 things to do. But if you actually calm your body and realize, well, out of 100, I can do 5 today, and then I'll do 5 tomorrow. And you start to look at the world in a way of, oh, I can conquer that. I can get through it. Instead of just being so stressed, you get nothing accomplished. So Mukuna is really interesting because once you have this relationship coming in the body and relaxation can come back, things like the liver, things like the thyroid calm, and they actually go back to good function. Your adrenal glands finally allow you to feel like at least you're in a cave where you can fight only what's in front of you and not have to worry about things 360 degrees around you. So that's a unique relationship. But yes, the way you play with your body and these neurotransmitters can be very interesting, and there's a lot of different uniqueness about how each of these different compounds affect our blood. Everybody's very different, and sometimes it's one of those to where you need just a small portion of something in order to get your body to hear or to see or to feel that. And I am speaking on the level of like a couple of grains of something. Some people only need things dosed in homeopathic levels. Other people, like myself, I can eat a tablespoon or two of this and I'll go to sleep really well, or I can stay awake for the next 4 or 5 hours. It doesn't really affect me one way or the other unless I want it to have an effect. So it's kind of unique in that way. But there is something to that. Learning how to experience something, but in a great way of controlling it, let the experience happen and not feel like you're out of control. So it's kind of
So your mind's still kind of controlling. It has a spin.
It has 2 spins.
Tail spin.
2 spins. And yes, you can get caught into one side versus the other. The reason illicit drugs are so awesome is because they flush you with dopamine every time you do them. And it's been shown that actually with heroin addicts especially, that the process of getting ready to do the drug is all they actually need to get the dopamine release to feel what they call the high, the fix. And if they just did the process and then actually did no injection, they just injected saline solution, they would feel just the same release, the same happy as what they would if they had the drug inside their body. I mean, you got to be a pretty high-level addict to actually have the desensitization to the heroin that strong, but it's the process that they love, not the actual drug itself. After a while, you become completely numb to all that stuff. But the unique place here is you're allowing the dopamine response to push you into a negative thing. You're loving something so much because, well, it's finally taking you away from your stress. It's finally balancing your body. It's giving you an activity, a hobby to do that you really enjoy. And it's just not positive for you. So you can use that same blood system to promote good things for you and balance you back into a better world and much more functional.
Maybe just take it when you need it, or can you?
I would take it when you need it, for sure. Versus holy basil, the one place about holy basil, start off with AM PM. And every day AM PM. And see even after 1 week what happens when you reset your body that way. Right? And when I say AM PM, right when you wake up, right when you go to sleep. Depending on how your cycle is or what your daytime activity levels are, that might mean 6 o'clock for somebody right when you wake up. That might mean 9 o'clock for somebody who's waking up a little later. And that's okay. The idea is when you're wanting your body to be alert, holy basil will activate your system. When you're wanting your body to calm, holy basil will calm you back down. And it will give you the ability to hopefully sleep a little bit more effectively.
So do both morning and PM, not both.
Holy basil, yes. Mukuna, when needed.
And what about, would that be like, would be so like before the morning mix and,
Or in your morning mix.
I mean, would it be before then, if you say if I take like the MSM morning mix?
Mm-hmm.
That soda, which would I take first, the holy basil then first maybe, if
You
it
can
doesn't
mix it.
matter, put
Doesn't
them
matter.
together?
Your blood system's going to understand the difference between the two.
Okay,
And
so you
so
take it together.
You can take it right together. No issues there at all. And so this is a beautiful place of really getting back to feeling your environment, knowing the temperature of the room, and actually being able to respond to it properly. So I find it funny because the thing that I work with is actually the process that I'm trying to undo and recreate. The main way for people to control their thyroid is to technically take hormone replacement therapy. That's the drugs that come in for the thyroid. You're trying to replace hormones. You're trying to take out a hormone that your body isn't either producing well enough and add more of it, or you're trying to limit a particular hormone by giving your body more than what it can take on the other side of the equation. And it's a constant teeter-totter. It's a constant back and forth. Like I say, the sad part is that a lot of times they just surgically remove a thyroid that's not functioning. And then you're stuck in the zone of, well, now how do you even begin to control the system? Most people, whenever they have surgery, will see the body dysfunction that their thyroid was doing for them finally come on. This is just a terrible situation. And then I've seen people who have hyperactive thyroids, meaning their thyroid's really good about doing its job, and they will put radioactive iodine into the body in order to shut the thyroid down and actually burn it out and scar it from the inside over. And that's again just not helpful when all they probably needed was a little bit of iodine to regulate the system, and then they would have gone back to better function. So instead of tearing out the wall to get rid of the thermostat, the idea is just change the thermostat. It's really easy. You can start detoxification. So when you're looking at your thyroid, like I was saying about the iodine reaction, if you know somebody who has a major reaction to iodine, sometimes you have to start in the detox category first. Give them 5, 6, 12 months sometimes of actually pulling material out of the body with compounds like detoxify or using zeolite powders, shilajit, TMG, MSM. These things will finally take some of the high-level chemicals that the body is feeling, that it's sensing, and it's saying, hey, I'm stressed because I've got all this stuff floating around in my body. If you've been on this planet for more than 50 years, you have everything from Agent Orange to DHT to different types of PCBs to phthalates to different types of aerosol compounds to different types of leaded gas, unleaded gas. You've got plastics up the wazoo, Teflon out there. If you've had more than one vaccine in the last 20 years, you've got every different type of mercury inside your body. It's crazy what we're dealing with. And if you think about it from the cell's perspective, their friends, your buddies, the people who make you up, are just can't deal with it anymore. And until you start detoxing material out, will they actually calm enough to where they can start feeling a little bit better. And I love this example. So every National Lampoon's Vacation movie you've ever seen, it gets about 3 seconds in, and you watch the father figure be so stressed out that all he can do pretty much is just scream and drive the car. Like that's the only two scenes. That's just stress. And you think of that relationship on how your whole body is technically telling you, I can't even begin to slow down, calm down, because there's so much toxicity, so much stress, so much perceived stress even sometimes. That cell phone, those beeps, the little things that the phone does, every single time it makes a noise, the test that they show now is that people can't even think or concentrate anymore. The sound of, I forget the one sound that they were showing, maybe it was the iPhone sound, but all a person has to do is hear it. It doesn't even have to be their own phone. And their whole body just goes into stress fight or flight mode. And it's just so sad that we become, and we saw the dog experiment. We know what's happening, and yet we still let ourselves participate in it. But this is where I find it really unique. There are solutions. I'll be the person to tell you, you can solve this problem. You don't have to be in this scenario any longer. You may not get out of it tomorrow or next week. It may take a year or two. I don't know. The difference is that if you are working on it continuously and in the right ways, as long as you have that gland still inside your body, if you want to heal your thyroid, it is possible. It is possible. The system will correct. It will regenerate if you just give it enough support, enough care, and you finally start working in the right ways to balance your body. It's not going to be the easiest thing in the world, but it will be something that if you put some effort and energy into it, I know from experience that it is something that you can do. Just take some plan. Just take some time. It takes a network of people. even with myself and trying to figure out all of these different food options and different supplement options and everything. It's not even just me. Again, it requires everything from lymph detoxification, like we talked about last time, or blood detoxification. It talks about stress management. We need to get it to where when something bad happens, you just deal with it. You don't stress about it. You just deal with it. And the idea is that relationship will put you in a much better place for handling the rest of your body. So if there are any questions, any particulars that essentially come up with all this conversation, great. If I'll leave this on for a couple more minutes to actually give those questions the ability to be recorded. And then if there's anything more specific, personal, or anything like that, we'll cut this off. And then that way you can get very specific questions answered.
What was those three? You said chlorine, bromine, what was the other one?
Fluorine.
Fluorine, okay. And then another question is, did you say TPO needs to be low?
TPO should be low. Correct.
I love your code.
Shellfish allergy. People are afraid to take iodine when they have a shellfish allergy.
Right.
Is that what is
Bad information. For some reason, they believe because the shellfish are in the ocean that they have iodine in them, and they do, but it's a really, really small amount. I think it's funny because the same person might even eat seaweed or sushi and not think twice about it. So yeah, no, that's just a weird spot. Shellfish allergy actually comes more likely from an allergic to certain types of small microscopic toxic algae that are inside the shellfish. So that's kind of funny too, because most people are allergic to shellfish because they've had at one point in time toxic algae inside something they've eaten, and their body says don't ever do that again. And that makes a lot of sense.
Isn't it fair not to eat shellfish?
Well, if it says anything Alaskan on it right now, no. If it says direct from Fukushima with love radiation, that's one of those. Shellfish are perfectly fine. Understand that all shellfish are filtration organs.
Yeah.
So they filter the water and whatever's inside the water, whether it's human toxic waste or fecal material or just red algae blooms that are toxic. Yeah, you shouldn't be touching it. So when you go to Hometown Buffet and they have the wonderful oyster bar sitting there or whatever, you probably need to understand where it comes from if you're going to do it. The further south, the better off you are. So if you're down in Cozumel or some beautiful place, Cozumel had Deepwater Horizon. Honestly, you're right. I don't know if I can really say it's tough. It's tough. Well, they are the creepy crawlies of the ocean that do the cleaning just the same way. Leviticus does a great job at trying to warn us from eating things that could cause problems.
Yeah.
So that's very true. Very true.
Where does that TPO come from? You were talking about when you're a little lost.
Your body produces it. So whenever you have a lot of stress in your thyroid gland or a lot of toxicity in your thyroid gland, your body produces TPO to try to destroy the bad tissue. So that's the way the system works. And if you have too much TPO, the chances or likelihood of you noduling or cancering inside your thyroid goes up, and that's definitely an issue. So, but your body's just responding to stress and to toxicity. And that's the only two pieces there.
Is there a certain area that affects the body more at the beginning, like the lungs?
When you have I'd say the one place I see more reaction is usually either digestion or skin. So if you're a person who is, say, colitis, gastritis, or diverticulitis or something like that, a lot of inflammation, you can start to, because the thyroid gland is going to send a signal to the body you're in stress, and fast-moving or non-moving bowels is a pretty good indication that there's stress, that there's inflammation occurring. Both. So both can happen. I don't know if you're like me. I'm the type of person who uses the restroom more when I'm stressed. Other people, they'll not use it at all. So So it's funny how that works. But yeah, that's one of those interesting places, digestion. And then the skin. I think the skin actually shows it more than anything for a lot of people. Here's a funny one. If you see somebody only maybe once or twice a year, and all of a sudden they come to Thanksgiving table, and you've noticed that for some reason their eyebrows are only halfway covering their face, and they used to have full eyebrows, that's a definitive sign of thyroid dysfunction. So where your thyroid, how strong your thyroid is the dependence on how much depth you have inside your eyebrows. So, I don't know, that's kind of funny. Like
I'm
that's,
gonna be looking at people's eyebrows now.
Or the, can't see how many blonde.
well, Graves' disease and thyroid toxemia to the point of developing into Graves' disease is completely different. And that's one of those places where, we'll talk a little bit more, because specifically for you, I do know that there's that other piece to this. So there is something interesting in that. But no, Graves' disease, yeah, it happens to where the body is so flooded in the thyroid with all the chlorine and bromine that it actually will try to put it out through the mucous membrane of the eyes. And it will just rash and infect and swell and do all this craziness around the eyeballs. And it's still so funny because they say, oh, this is an iodine problem. You're taking too much iodine. And it's the opposite. It's no, you don't have enough, and your body's trying anything to use chlorine, fluorine, and bromine like iodine. It doesn't work. So you become allergic to those compounds, and have that reaction. So yeah, so there's definitely some issues there. But yeah, that can be a relationship.
And doesn't have an exercise routine like during the week also help detoxify the body?
Oh yes, of course. I mean, that's where exercise releases endorphins, gets rid of the cytotoxins, allows for a really good process, and creates good lymph movement. So exercise is such a critical piece in the other styles of body care, minus the superfoods and the nutrition aspect and things like that. No, and it doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be like you're going through a CrossFit or Ironman marathon. Just movement at all helps. It definitely keeps the body in good function.
And you mentioned breathing, so meditation helps too.
It does.
Well, I meditate.
The one fun thing though is about meditation. I'm trying to meet with a couple people soon to where we can actually do a constructive meditation class. Meditation for relaxation is one thing. Meditation with a purpose in terms of healing, completely different. And this is one where I'm trying to work with somebody who's more in touch and in tune with that process of actually doing meditation for healing versus just de-stress, which is kind of unique. But yes, meditation by far shown to help the body in more ways than we can understand, and definitely one where I highly recommend anybody. Get out there, touch the ground, get rid of some of that static electricity, start to find out ways of battling your inflammation, and see what we can do to be a little healthier. All right, so we are over time, and obviously thank you so much for joining. If you have any questions, feel free. There's something that we're doing for people who are interested, just so you know. We're going to start changing up a little bit of the actual coaching strategies for Brilliance Nutrition and the Optimal Wellness Network. We're going to have a thyroid healing circle kind of develop. It's a really great process that I love about the way to where you don't exactly have to be in an active program all the time, almost like a Thoughtful Thursday class, but we will focus each month just on thyroids. So that way a person who's trying to travel through this process, because it isn't just next month you focus on cleaning your thyroid and then you're done, and then you never have to go back to it. The idea is it has to kind of work with you for a long time. So in that sense, we're developing an interest list, seeing if you know anybody who's dealing with thyroid issues, and they say, okay, that'd be nice. I'd love to meet with a group of people who all kind of have the same concern and figure out some solutions and track through it and watch what we can do to benefit ourselves. So I'll be trying to facilitate that and working with the other providers at Optimal Wellness as well too, Dr. Glanson and a couple of our practitioners who focus a little bit more on thyroid health, and that way we can see some benefits.
Will that focus on people who do not have a thyroid?
Healthy thyroids are much easier to keep care of than unhealthy thyroids. That is true. So yes, it still will give you a lot of information and a lot of details on what it means to maintain or keep a balanced thyroid. And learning those tactics before you have a thyroid issue, extremely beneficial. So yes, healthy thyroids. Yeah, it's not that say that again.
It's been removed.
Oh. You,
gone.
yeah, it's complete, then you have a completely different pattern. Yes, you,
So if
you
you
almost
that
need
class-
to be a part of that class because you then have to control the thyroid or control the
Control
body
everything else.
in different ways to do what the thyroid would be doing. And that's a very interesting form of processing as well too. So yes, we will actually have a lot of people who are in that state because that's the most concern that I find is for people who go, well, I don't have one anymore. What am I supposed to do now? Everything's failing. Why is that? Yeah.
How often? is
Once a
it
month. It'll be a once a month class. It'll be exciting.
On the TPO again.
Yep.
Okay, so having problem with thyroid